Alright, what's up, everyone? We made it through week 1 officially, and in this video, we are going to be going over my predictions for week 2. So, just as a recap, my week 1 predictions, I went 12-4. I did pretty good. I got the Ravens winning wrong. I got the Jets winning wrong, but I honestly expected that one. As well as a couple others, but overall, I did pretty solid last week, I'd say. But now we're going into week 2. Clean slate. We're getting a feel for how things are going to be this season. It's going to be a little bit easier to predict. Though there are some pretty solid games out here, so let's get started. Alright, first up on Thursday Night Football, you have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Buffalo Bills. Hold on, I will be right with you. Okay, so both teams coming off of comeback wins. Of course, the Jags were up 17-7 over the Dolphins, or the Dolphins ended up coming back and winning. The Cardinals were up 17-3 on the Bills. The Bills ended up coming back and winning. So, both teams with pretty solid comebacks. Now, going also the Tyreek Hill situation, that cop was facing him in fantasy football. I'm joking, everybody. Don't get all mad. Anyways, so for this matchup, I have the Miami Dolphins actually winning. Yes, I know the Bills are notorious for owning the Dolphins, but when you look at these rosters, it's clear who's winning. It's clear who the better team is. At least last year was a competition. This year, it's just clear who's better, and it's the Miami Dolphins. Next up, you got the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Minnesota Vikings. The Niners coming off of a big win over the Jets on Monday Night Football. Jason Mason is going to haunt my nightmares for years. Meanwhile, the Vikings, Sam Darnold looked good for once. Though, in fairness, he was playing against the Giants, and the Giants are just a really bad football team. Regardless, I will be choosing the San Francisco 49ers to actually get the win here. The Vikings are still going to be struggling. I know that they won, but they faced the Giants, who is a weak team. And you gotta keep in mind their quarterback is Sam Darnold, so how high that is that ceiling really. And Jason Mason is basically just another RB1 for the Niners to tack onto their list of RB1s. So I got the Niners winning. Next up, you got the Seattle Seahawks going to face the Patriots. So the Seahawks eked out a win over the Broncos, and it was a lot closer than I expected, to be honest. You figure they had a better offense, they have a better defense. You'd expect it to be a much further apart game. But regardless, the Seahawks got the win. Meanwhile, the Patriots, in a disgusting game, actually beat the Bengals 16-10. Which just, I feel like that's what kind of cooked everybody's pick'ems and stuff. Because the Bengals, hello? They were not playing well. Regardless, though, as good, the Seahawks are still winning this game. If the Patriots actually win this game, there's going to be an issue. Because there's absolutely no reason that the Patriots should be starting off a season 2-0 with the roster that they have. The Seahawks are a better team. Now, granted, the defense is a little bit worse than the Patriots, but that offense is just so good, you gotta bank on the Seahawks. Next up, you got a game that all of 2 people are gonna be watching. You got the Giants taking on the Commanders, and yeah, both these teams coming off of pretty crappy losses overall. I don't really like the Giants. They got absolutely annihilated by Sam Darnold and the Vikings, while the Commanders got slapped around by the Buccaneers. Now, Jaden Daniels did show flashes, and I just overall have more confidence in the Commanders than I do in this Giants team. I don't have much of an explanation for this one because I just think both teams suck. Next up, No description. You gave up 47 to the Saints. You let Derek Carr score 47 points on you. You don't get a section. Speaking of Derek Carr, you got the New Orleans Saints taking on the Dallas Cowboys. So the Saints coming off of a 47-10 win over the Carolina Panthers, who are just so bad. So bad. That team is so cooked this season. Then you got the Cowboys, who are coming off of a very dominant win over the Cleveland Browns. That offense played well. The defense was clicking. Deshaun Watson has more allegations. And they signed Kadarius Toney. So that's always fun. But leaving the finer details out, I'm picking the Cowboys to win this game because I don't actually have faith that Derek Carr is good now. I just think that that's the effect of playing the Panthers. Next up, you got a tough one. You got the Colts taking on the Packers. The Packers I'm so sorry. You lost Jordan Love to an MCL sprain. On the bright side, it's not season ending, so he will be back, but now you gotta bank on Malik Willis. Also, Anthony Richardson is QB1 in fantasy, so that's just a whole other thing. The Colts both teams coming off of very, very close matchups against the Texans and Eagles respectively, which they both ended up losing. Because of Jordan Love's injury, I will be taking the Indianapolis Colts. I think Anthony Richardson is going to have another good game. And Jordan Love, get well soon. Next up, you got two teams who lost again. You got the Browns against the Jaguars. The Browns got absolutely annihilated by the Cowboys, and the Jaguars chargered it. I have no other words. These are two very solid teams who had two very hard matchups in week 1, and I think that it's going to actually be a very solid game. But with that being said, I'm actually going to do something crazy. I'm going to take the Jaguars to upset the Browns here. I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to actually play decently, and if anything, I also just think that Deshaun Watson is a terrible quarterback. Next up, you got the Jets taking on the Titans. And the Titans, you blew it worse than the Bills, or not the Bills, the Cardinals and the Jaguars. You were up 17-0 on the Bears and you lost 24-7. Meanwhile, the Jets had a rough outing against the Niners. Admittedly, not one of our best games, obviously. But we gotta come back from it. I think that the Jets are a better rounded team than the Titans. And also, I think that the fact that we have to play so many away games to start off the season is a bit harsh. But I will be taking the Jets to win this game here. Also, ignore my really, really bad handwriting. Anyways, I'm not even going to pause this time. You got the Bucks taking on the Lions. Two teams coming off of wins. An NFC divisional round rematch. Of course, the Lions absolutely classic match with the Rams. Instant classic. 5 stars. Amazing overtime matchup. The Bucks obliterated the Commanders. But you gotta keep in mind, the Rams are much better than the Commanders. Both teams played very, very, very good football. And I think this is going to be arguably a game of the week candidate. And I'm going to be taking the Lions to win another game against the Bucks here. I think that the Bucks are a very solid team, but I think that the Lions are just that much better. So, yeah, I'm taking Lions. Next up, you got the Raiders and the Ravens. The Raiders coming off a tough loss to the Chargers, who I have winning again. And they are looking to bounce back, but they have to face a hungry Ravens team that just came off of a loss because of a toe. It's so tragic. And they could have won that game, and I think that the Ravens will destroy the Raiders. But that was a tough game. I didn't like that. Next up, you got the Rams taking on the Cardinals. The Rams lost in an overtime matchup to the Lions, while the Cardinals blew a 17-3 lead to the Buffalo Bills and lost 34-28. Now, granted, in another very good game, Both teams actually coming off of really good games. Good football from the Cardinals. Crazy. But that being said, though, I will be taking the Rams. The Lions are so much better than the Bills, and honestly, the fact that the Rams were that close again, I think that they're going to take out their anger on a weaker Cardinals team. Also, please use Marvin Harrison more. Pretty please. Next up, you got the Bengals taking on the Chiefs in a multi-time AFC Championship rematch. The Bengals lost to the Patriots. Yes, I did just say that. The Bengals actually are coming off of a Week 1 loss to the New England Patriots. The Chiefs, on the other hand, they played very good football. In another instant classic against the Ravens, they're annoyed, by the way. I don't have much trust in the Bengals team after seeing that Patriots game. I think the Chiefs are just going to BS their way to another win like they always do. Andy Reid is a legend at this point. Mahomes might be better than Brady. Possibly. Don't know. Kelsey, best tight end of all time. Possibly. You know, just like, at this point, betting against the Chiefs is just stupid. Next up, you got the Steelers taking on the Broncos. The Broncos coming off of a tough loss to the Seahawks. They actually played better than expected, but unfortunately, Bo Pix might not be the guy. Meanwhile, the Steelers, they scored 6 field goals and won 18-10 over the Atlanta Falcons in what had to be one of the worst games of the week. And I was expecting a lot more from the Falcons. I was expecting a lot more from the Steelers, too, to be perfectly honest with you. Both teams really disappointed me this week, or last week, but I will be taking the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I have no faith in the Broncos. Next up on Sunday Night Football, you got a good one. You got the Texans and the Bears. The Bears coming off of a humongous comeback over the Titans, while the Texans coming out of a instant classic against the Indianapolis Colts in Week 1. Both teams ended up getting the wins, and both teams are... Oh, this is also a Hall of Fame game rematch or whatever. But both teams are looking very solid. You got Stroud versus Caleb. This is going to be a solid matchup overall. I see this being a very close game again, and I'm rocking with the Houston Texans to get another win and continue the win streak. Finally, on Monday Night Football, you got the Atlanta Falcons, you got the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles coming off of a crazy game against the Packers in Brazil, and they almost lost if it wasn't for Jordan Love hurting his MCL. Meanwhile, the Falcons lost without giving up a touchdown. Yeah, what? That defense is so good, and they proved it, but Kirk Cousins looked terrible in their game. He was not playing well. They only got 10 points. They ended up losing. And I just have so much more faith in the Eagles than I do in the Falcons. So I'm taking the Eagles to win. So just as a little recap, I got the Dolphins beating the Bills, the 49ers beating the Vikings, the Seahawks beating the Patriots, the Commanders beating the Giants, the Chargers beating the Panthers, the Cowboys beating the Saints, the Colts beating the Packers, the Jags beating the Browns, the Jets beating the Titans, the Lions beating the Bucks, the Ravens beating the Raiders, the Rams beating the Cardinals, the Chiefs beating the Bengals, the Steelers beating the Broncos, the Texans beating the Bears, and the Eagles beating the Falcons. But if you want to see more of these, because I'm posting one of these every Tuesday, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, all that yada 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 bull. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.